Okay, today is May 17th, back out here getting after it again. What I decided to do is the areas that were still low that I thought I might be able to sand out, went ahead and glazed those very, very lightly. Gonna let that set up for a while, and then I'll block sand those, prime them, and then I'll be ready to start wet sanding 400 grit. Okay, so since I put glaze on here in these areas, I did sand them back and, level sand with a block in 320. Went ahead and 320 the whole side again, as well as the other side, before wet sanding. But I don't feel comfortable just putting a sealer coat over top of that filler, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a small amount of primer, and I'm gonna put one full coat of primer on this entire side and the other side, and block sand one more time with 320, because I don't want to regret not, I don't want to regret having left that open just to putting sealer over top of it. That may be an okay thing to do. I don't know. You guys out there that do this more for a living would know. But just to be on the safe side, I'm going to put some primer on it. I went ahead and edge primed the areas that had bare metal with the this SEM self-etching primer, so I'm not worried about that. So I'm going to mix up some primer and get a coat of primer on this whole side again. Okay, so put another coat of primer on here. I didn't, show the spray because you've already seen all that, and I didn't show the 320 blocking that I just did, which would have been, ad nauseum again. You've already seen all that. So I'm done putting primer on. I'm done block sanding at this point. Everything looks pretty good. Of course, you don't know really what it's going to look like until the paint's on it, and then it's too late. So I would say I've spent a pretty fair amount of time doing this. So, as far as on this Jeep. So I'm ready to move on. So now what I've got is some 400 grit. I'll move back up. I used 400 grit on a DA sander because once you've done all this block sanding, you got all these straight lines and stuff from sanding, you want to try to get rid of those. So you take a DA sander, 400 grit, and lightly go over the whole surface so you can get rid of any kind of straight lines that you might see, which would be catastrophic once the paint is on. Now I've got 400 grit wet dry paper with a DuraBlock. I used to have a 3M block. I don't know what happened to it, but it was rubber. I really liked it. I have to pick up another one sometime, but this will work. It's flat. And I've got a spray bottle with just water and a couple of drips of, just a couple of drops of, try to say, dish detergent. So it reduces the friction as you're, trying to sand, so you don't get some kind of a, what am I trying to say? It reduces friction, allows it to flow better as you're sanding. You don't get hung up. So, but wet sand with 400 grit now. Here we go. I know the term I was looking for. It's called the coefficient of friction. So putting a little soap, dish soap in here, reduces the coefficient of friction. All right, here we go. That's a fancy way of saying it makes the sandpaper glide easier. Okay, you might ask, why is it important to use a block when you're wet sanding? And the reason being is, if you use just your fingers, as you're pressing down, believe it or not, you can leave an imprint on the primer that you may not see with your eye on the primer itself, but then the paint goes on and the gloss in the paint will accentuate what is underneath it. So I learned the hard way. Again, when I did that front fender, there was an area that I needed to kind of take down a little bit, and I used my 2 fingers and forgot to come back and block over it. And you can see, you couldn't see it when I primed it, but when I put the paint on it and it's set up in the right light, you can see it plain as day. So the only thing I'm going to do with my hand very carefully without the block is around the letters, because I can't get the block around those, so I'm going to be very careful. There we go. All right, got the driver's side wet sanded 400 grit, and got a couple little areas. One here, I don't think I'm going to worry about that. Bare metal spot there. A little bit of bare metal back here along the edge of where the fender flare goes, and then right there. So I'll hit that with the self-etching primer. A little bit on the letter J there. Hit that with some self-etching primer. Outside of that, things look good, they feel good. The term I used in the last video there, or the previous frame, whatever, was coefficient of friction. Actually, the right term for that would be by using a couple of drops of soap in the water, spray bottle, is it reduces surface tension. That's what I was looking for. You don't want to reduce the coefficient of friction, although I guess it probably technically does. It's more the surface tension that's there between the water, the instrument that you're using against the panel, and there's tension there. I kind of learned about that when I was building custom drums back in the early and mid 2000s, late 2000s, I guess. And did a lot of finishing with a lot of clear gloss and stuff with different types of material. And that always required basically the same stuff. It's just a sanding procedure or schedule, starting at a 120 or 80 grit if necessary on the wood, and then 120, 220, 320, and then I wouldn't usually go past 320 before I'd be spraying the clear coat and whatnot. But anyway, I'm rambling again. So what I'm going to do now is do the other side, and I'm going to spare you the details on that because it's the same. Wet sand that side, get it wiped down, and assess it. And I think tomorrow is going to be painting day. All right, this is going to wrap it up. I don't have any power right now, but I'm pretty much done for the day anyway. Got a solar company here working on our solar array that they installed, and doing some wiring and whatnot. But anyway, I think should look pretty good. One thing that I've learned that you can do, that I've already done, is if you spray water, just regular water, and wet the panel, completely soak it so there's no dry spot anywhere. You ought to be able to look in a raking light and see if there's any kind of waviness to the panel or not. And I did that on this panel, and it reflected nicely. Everything looks good as far as I can tell. Same thing on this side. This is done, 400 grit, and I've wiped it down, and it's slick as a baby's butt now. So everything's looking pretty good. So the only thing I really need to do at this point is hit these areas with self-etching primer, because I can't put any paint over a bare metal area. It would not be a good idea. So anyhow, that's gonna do it for today. And so tomorrow, provided the weather's good and provided I've got power, I got Green Wave Solar out there. Got the inverters right over there. Anyway, as long as I have power, I'll be able to spray finish. So, because I got to run my compressor, obviously. So, all right, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.